What is going on, everybody, and welcome back once again. My name is Jordan, also known as J Monster, and thank you for joining me for another episode of our replay battle series. This time around I have a 2 vs 2 on 3rd Age Reforged. This is the Rammas Echor map on huge unit settings. These are some very vast forces. They're going to be facing off outside the walls of the Rammas Echor on the fields of Pelennor, and I think you guys are going to enjoy it. So let's take a look at the army compositions, then we can jump right into the replay. The first army is the army of the Orcs of Gondor, being commanded by Gurochan. He's got 1 unit of Witch Realm Blackguard, which is where his general's hanging out. He's got a unit of Hammer Guard and 1 unit of Barrow Wights. This is a new unit that's been added in 0.86, and at the moment their only purpose is to serve as a tar pit. They've got 10 HP, 0 defense, and 5 damage. It is my understanding that these may become a different kind of unit later, but we'll have to see about that. But at the moment, yeah, they're really just there to hold down a much better unit for an extended period of time, potentially allowing you to get in a nice flank charge, for example. So I can see these guys being useful if you pair them with the Hammer Guard, which he has over there on the right. He's also got a couple units of Witch Realm Blackguard, 1 unit of Snow Trolls, a couple units of Witch Realm Scourge Guard, or just Witch Realm Scourges, there we go, Scourge Raiders, 2 units of Black Ruroks of the Mount, and 1 unit of Númenórean Shadow Guard. A really nice AP force here that's going to be useful for cracking the heavily armored infantrymen of the good factions. He's also got 1 unit of Catapult, 1 unit of Witch Realm Inquisitors, and a huge throwaway expendable force over here. This is what I love to see from the Orcus factions, really having a nice core infantry selection, but also having some low-tier, low-rent units to throw against the enemy lines to hold them down. He's got 1 unit of Orc Fellers and 5, yes count them, 5 units of filthy, unwashed Snaga Stalkers. Over here we have the army of Wumley, who is commanding Mordor. He's got 4 units of Orc Band composing his front line, 3 or 4 units of Orc Raiders, 1 unit of the Temple Guard here. These are Mordor's heavy archers. He's also got a couple unit of Uruk archers, 1 unit of the Shadow Guard, who are hiding out in here somewhere, a large number of Uruks. He's got 2 units, I believe, of the regular Uruks and 2 units of Halberds. He's also got the best that Mordor has to offer. You can see a very strong contingent of Black Númenóreans right here. He's got 1 unit of Shield Guard, 1 unit of Temple Inquisitors, and a single unit of Númenórean Shield Guard. And to round the whole force off, he's also got a Troll Catapult, and of course, the Olokai, the very deadly, the very classic Olokai. In opposition to Mordor, looking to retake the walls of the Rammas Echor and the fields of Pelennor, we of course have the Kingdom of Gondor, being commanded by Dostil. He's brought 1 unit of Knights of the Silver Swan, 1 unit of White Knights, you can see them over there in the back, and a single unit of Haven Guard, and the rest of his infantry seems more like a holding force to me. He's got 2 units of Citadel Guard, 2 units of Fountain Guard, and 3 units of Guards of Osgiliath Pikemen, who are composing his center line. Behind them, he's got a couple units of Pelargir Marines, and out in front, you can't see them, they are hidden. He's got 2 or 3 units of Archers of the Blackroot Vale. Supporting Gondor in her push to retake the walls, we have the army of the Sylvan Elves, being commanded by Son of the Dunedain. He's brought 3 units of Sindar Blade Masters, 1 unit of Sylvan Heavy Swords, 2 units of Elder Royal Guards, 2 units of Hiri Bang, 1 here, 1 in the back, which has his general in it. He's also got 2 units of Hirinex Spearmen. It'll be interesting to see how this very small, very elite force of Sylvan Elves stacks up against the much more numerous evil armies of Mordor and Gundabad. But that's it for the army compositions. Now we can jump right into the replay. In the distance, you can see the armies of the Sylvan Elves moving to take position on Gondor's left flank. I think that's probably the best thing that they can do in this kind of situation, where they are so heavily outnumbered. You want to present a united front, otherwise you will find yourself isolated and enveloped and beaten down by the much more numerous armies of the Orcs. But look at this. Let's take a moment to appreciate the vastness of these attacking forces. Both these Orc factions have brought a ton of warriors. You can just see them now streaming outwards from the gate. This is going to be a very tough fight for Gondor and the Sylvan Elves. The 2 vast armies of Mordor and Gondor now moving into position. This is what I'd like to see. Some nice teamwork moving in together. Do not let your allies go in on their own. Otherwise, you will find your prospects for victory very quickly diminishing in the space of a counterattack. So some nice teamwork here from Gurochan and Wumley. Exactly what I like to see. So I'm not really a big fan of this Gondor formation. It looks kind of similar to like the Roman Quincux, that's a very flexible checkerboard formation, but I'm not really seeing the purpose of it in this particular instance. Maybe if Mordor and Gundabad were heavily bunching up their forces or concentrating them in a single area, maybe this very flexible kind of open formation would be useful, potentially for a flanking maneuver, but they are very outnumbered. I don't think that's going to happen anyways, because you can see the Mordor and Gundabad armies are now all in loose formation, and it looks like, from what I can tell of their deployment, they are deploying a lot of their more powerful forces in the center. So they're presenting this very wide front, I think with the purpose of coming in for a huge flanking maneuver, and it looks like that's what they've set themselves up for. They've got trolls and they've got cavalry over here on the good to bad left flank. Over here, it looks like Mordor has fallen a little bit behind his ally. I think that's probably... I think it's kind of okay. Kuroguro-chan is looking to tie down the Sylvan Elves anyway with some of his Snaga. And Mordor now settling back into a little bit of a late skirmish phase, setting up his catapult, and at the same time moving up his orc band forward. I really think that the lack of artillery on the good side is going to be a big hindrance for their armies in this battle. I can see now the skirmish force of the Sylvan Elves trying to fall back. Oh, that catapult, though, getting a nice piece of those Hiri Bang. A number of them falling in battle. It looks like about 5 of them. Over here, these Snaga now charging into battle against some Sylvan heavy swordsmen. That is going to be an absolute slaughterhouse for those Snaga stalkers. Kuroguro-chan coming in from behind with some of his barrel whites, looking to outflank this Elven position here. They've now opened up a hole in their lines with the deployment of those Sylvan heavy swords, and it looks like Kuroguro-chan is looking to exploit that to its fullest. He may be going after the archers, but that is going to oblige the Sylvan Elf player, Son of Dunedain, to respond in kind with a unit of his Hiri neck. Look at this. So they're very, very bunched up. Unfortunately, it was kind of a last-minute charge, and these very spread-out barrel whites are going to be able to surround them pretty much on every side, all by themselves. Over here, that big line now has, or a big hole has opened up in the lines of Gondor and the Sylvan Elves, and Kuroguro-chan streaming through with more of his Snaga stalkers. Over here, it looks like this line being held down by some of Gundabad's kind of throwaway infantry. Got some orc fellers charging into battle against the Citadel Guard. I've got a unit of Snaga stalkers coming over on this side, looking to envelop this flank. It's not really going to go well for them, I think, if they try to do that, because they are very unsupported. Most of Mordor's heavy infantry now lagging a little bit behind. Over here, we got a bit of a cav engagement. The Witch Realm Inquisitors going into battle against the Knights of the Silver Swan. That's going to be a tough fight for the Inquisitors. They are very powerful 3 HP heavy cavalry, but the Silver Swan are 2 HP themselves, and there's quite a lot more of them, and I believe there are also anti-cavalry as well. So it looks like he's just trying to hold down that cavalry and prevent them from absolutely destroying his flanking movement on this side. The Snaga Stalkers now in battle against Pelargir Marines. Not a bad engagement for the Snaga Stalkers. Obviously, they're going to win. They're some of the worst infantry in the game. But they are preventing these Pelargir Marines from bringing their javelins to bear, and at the same time he's moving in another unit of Black Gruiks of the Mountain. This is very, very bad for Gondor's right flank. He needs to do something with those Fountain Guard, I think, but his hands are a little bit tied, just because of how many forces Mordor still has in reserve, and how many are over there on that flank. We've got the Haven Guard now charging in the battle against the Snow Trolls. That is a good choice. Haven Guard have a lot of armor and a lot of HP and high damage. They are troll killers. So this is probably the best place for his Haven Guard to be at this point. Over here, let's go take a look at what's happening with the Sylvan Elves. We can see some of the Sindar Blade Masters being mobilized, but the Sylvan Elf lines are kind of in disarray. He's got his archers now very bunched up back here. Very easy prey for that catapult, or for a charge from those Olokai, which it looks like Mordor is moving into position just for that purpose. He's also got a unit of Sindar Blade Masters here who are maybe potentially going to plug any holes that those Olokai open, or maybe try to use them to counter those Númenorian Shield Guard. But over here, he's got a small line of Sindar Blade Masters trying to fight back these Orc Raiders in engagement, which they are going to take very handily. But he is so wide open right now. If Mordor moves in that cavalry, and it looks like that's what he's going to do, he's going to be able to do a ton of damage to these forces in the Sylvan Elf's back lines. Over here, the infantry fight now firmly in hand. The Sylvan Elf player managing to beat back the Mordor forces on pretty much every front. Over here, these Barrow Whites now getting absolutely decimated by these guys. These Sylvan Heavy Swordsmen have finished with those Snaga Stalkers, now into the back of this Orc band. So Mordor has a good strategy, but I think that the disorganization here is actually kind of playing in favor of the Sylvan Elves, who are able to isolate pockets of Mordor infantry and defeat them in detail. Oh man, that is going to be a devastating shot. I think this might connect. Oh, very lucky for those Hiri Bang. They're kind of being shot from the flank, though, by I think some of the Temple Guard, and that's really a bad position for these archers to be in. Very bunched up like this, they are easy prey for Mordor's missile units. Trying to move them out of position, or out of that blob and into something a little bit better for skirmishing. He's kind of got himself, oh no, stuck in amongst the Mordor infantry. So the Sylvan Elf line's really disorganized at this point, and starting to play against them. Over here, the Olokai decimating the Sindar Blade Masters, and now the Númenorian Shadow Guard, or Shield Guard. This is what I feared, in amongst the Royal Guard. The Royal Guard will be able to hold their own for a little while against the mounted Númenorians, but cycle charges are really going to tell against these two very elite, very important archer units. So the Sylvan Elves, their strength is the archers, but the Mordor players doing a great job at shutting down their skirmishers, and they can't bring those very powerful forces to bear against Mordor's warriors. So really great job there on the part of Wumley, who's doing a marvelous job at shutting down the Sylvan Elves. Over here, things looking a little bit better for Mordor. It looks like they had a little bit of a break in their center here. This very spread out Gondor formation starting to play against him a little bit. He's now got some Witch Realm Pikes alongside some Witch Realm Blackguard. Now, in amongst his Pelargir Marines, this is a very, very bad engagement for those light infantry. He really wants to try and get them out of there. Maybe pull back some of his troops from over here. Oh no, he really doesn't have that option right now. But ideally, you don't want these guys to be in melee combat. You want them to be able to throw their javelins. They're just getting absolutely devastated by those Blackguard and Pikemen. Over here, the Witch Realm Scourge Guard, again, in amongst his skirmishers. The skirmishers for Gondor and Sylvan Elves really not able to be effective in this battle. Kuro Grochan is absolutely butchering those Pelargir Marines. He's taking a couple of charges from the Knights of the Silver Swan, who looks like have handily defeated the Witch Realm Blackguard over on this side. I'm not really sure what happened to the rest of the unit, but I'm pretty sure for the most part, they are combat ineffective at this point. And now with the Knights of the Silver Swan just leading cycle charges into these Witch Realm Scourge Guard, and I think this is going to shut down Mordor's flanking movement on this left side. These Snow Trolls starting to fall in combat against the Fountain Guard, who are very good at taking them on. Over here, the Citadel Guard also embroiled in combat with those trolls, but doing much less well. Oh my goodness, look at this! So many of them dying. That Snow Troll just got like 3 or 4 kills right there. Over here, his Guards of Osgiliath, because of how gappy his formation is, these guys now surrounded on 2 sides. Black Uruks of the Mountain on one side, and Hammer Guard on the other. There is no hope for these pikemen unless they get some support immediately. Over here, it looks like the Blackroot Vale Archers now in melee combat with the Black Uruks. That's not the best thing to happen. There's a huge opportunity here to hit these Númenórean Shadow Guard and hit the rear of this pike unit, which is preventing any hammer and anvil charges from these White Knights over here from coming in to assist the Gondor infantry. But speaking of hammer and anvil charges, a nice charge into the backs of these Witch Realm pikemen who are beginning to be driven back. But over here, the breakthrough in their lines now turning into a flanking movement. These Guards of Osgiliath surrounded again in this area. This is really unfortunate for Gondor's infantry. He needs to try and keep his forces alive if possible. He's getting a little bit of support from his Sylvan Elf ally. As a unit of Sylvan Heavy Swordsmen here now down to about half strength. Doing their best to help Gondor. If they can get into the back of these Witch Realm pikemen, they may be able to turn this around. But those Blackguard, I think, are going to prove to be a very, very stiff problem for the forces of Gondor and the Sylvan Elves. Over here, the Sylvan Elves, looks like they're kind of victorious, but Mordor has now moved in the best of the best. The Shield Guard now positioning themselves to come into combat alongside some Temple Inquisitors. And I'm pretty sure we're going to see these Temple Guard run out of ammo pretty quickly. They do have less ammunition than the Númenórean Shadow Guard, but they are also very good melee troops as well. So I think we're going to see them brought to bear against the Sylvan Elves pretty shortly. Nice flanking maneuver from Mordor over here. You can see a huge number of Uruks tying down this unit of Hiranek. And over here we can see some of these Sindar Blade Masters now embroiled in a combat with these Uruk Halberds. They have finished their fight against those Olokai, but now these Halberds have moved in. But I don't think that's going to go very well for the Halberds. These Sindar Blade Masters are not to be trifled with. I think because of their formation, they're going to be very easily surrounded by this, albeit thin line of Sindar Blade Masters. But if they find themselves surrounded, they will be destroyed. Over here we can see the Mountain Númenórean Shield Guard. Now down to a mere 24. The Sylvan Elves have done a pretty decent job at shutting down that cavalry unit, but now they are able to charge right through their lines here. And I think they're going for the Knights of the Silver Swan, who it looks like just wiped out Kuro Grochan's catapult. So good job there on the part of the Gondor player. The catapult is definitely a big menace to these bunched up groups of soldiers, although I think it may have come a little bit too late in the battle to make a huge difference. These Mountain Númenórean Shield Guard have done really well in this battle, but they are going to find themselves, look at this, stuck between a rock and a hard place. The White Knights charging into combat, and in the rear you can see the Knights of the Silver Swan setting themselves up for a huge charge. This is going to be absolutely devastating for those Mountain Númenóreans. And oh my goodness, was it. It's like half the unit now gone in a single charge from the rear from those Knights of the Silver Swan. Mordor now looking a little bit desperate, looking to fend off those cavalry with his skirmish units, focusing all of them on the now very bunched up Gondor cavalry over there on his left. But over here, these Mountain Númenóreans and the rest of his Temple Guard have taken absolutely zero casualties because of how well he has shut down the Sylvan Elf skirmishers. So now he's going to be able to move them into combat and finish the destruction, I believe, of the Sylvan Elves. There's really not a lot of them left at this point. There's some mounted Númenóreans here who are a little bit surrounded. They've got Hiranek on one side and some Sylvan heavy swords. I believe they've been brought in from the side of Gondor into the flank of these Númenórean shield guards. The Gondor cavalry now has turned around and is charging into the rear of the Temple Inquisitors, but I don't think it's going to be enough. There is still some Mordor cav in the back here, and they're going to get a nice charge into these Sylvan Elves. There's only about 5 of them left, but it's going to be enough, I think, to take down 7 or 8 of them, which is really going to start to turn the tide of this engagement in favor of Mordor. Those Temple Guard, doesn't look like they took any damage. Maybe he went for the Inquisitors. Yeah, it looks like he did. So he managed to take down some of the Inquisitors, which is a big bonus for the Gondor cavalry, but there's just not enough of them at this point. They've been fighting cav, they've been fighting infantry, and now they're getting peppered with arrows. There's just not enough of these horsemen who have made it through to this late stage of the battle in order to make the difference that the Sylvan Elves and Gondor really need over here on the left flank. These Hiranek now gonna find themselves surrounded. I believe these Sylvan heavy swordsmen have been beaten back by the Númenóreans, and now they're free to focus their attention on these Hiranek, who are gonna find themselves very quickly surrounded. Looks like that's Mordor's general. We may see some routing over here from these Uruks, although it looks like they have the situation firmly enough in hand that they're feeling quite confident. But there isn't a flank charge here, or a rear charge rather, coming in from what remains of these Sindar Blade Masters, so I'm sure I've done a lot of damage in this battle. I think they're fresh from their victory over the Halberds, but I don't think it's going to be enough. Even with the loss of Mordor's general, I don't think they're going to be able to rout this flank of Uruks and then focus their attention on surrounding these Númenórean shield guards. I think it's just too late and there's just not enough elves left. Finally, a reasonably healthy unit of Hiri Bang, I believe this is where his general is hanging out, is able to get themselves in a position to begin skirmishing a little bit, but it is far, far too late. Oh my goodness, that poor banner bearer getting absolutely pancaked by that huge fireball from the Mordor catapult. Over here, it looks like things have begun to turn a little bit against Gondor. These Blackguard really proving to be a huge menace. He just doesn't have the AP left to deal with them. And over here, his lines have been completely broken. His Osgiliath Spearmen now absolutely gone. These Fountain Guard had a chance, I think, to beat some of the other units, but not these Hammer Guard. And they're just being beaten down by those very fearsome Gundabad units. And at the same time, the Gundabad player, Kuro Gurochan, bringing in his pikemen to the rear of those Fountain Guard. It's just not going to be these Fountain Guard just aren't going to be enough. And I don't think that he has any forces left either. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to speed it up just a little bit here. And yeah, you can see the forces of Mordor and Gundabad just mopping everybody up. Gondor's general now falling in combat against some of the Númenóreans. Gundabad, Kuro Gurochan now free to bring in some support units to help his ally on the other side. And there goes the Sylvan Elf bodyguards, or the Sylvan Elf general rather. All that remains of the Sylvan Elves is really just this one unit of Hiranek. I don't think they're going to be able to stick around much longer with the loss of their general. And there they are. They are now routing, fleeing from the field. Let's take a moment here, slow it down, and just appreciate the absolute slaughter here. The sacrifice of so many elves and men for our entertainment. Just a huge wide front. And I really think that Gondor allowed himself to have his lines broken and then to be surrounded in his center, which was really something that he needed to pay a little bit more attention to. The Sylvan Elves were in absolute disarray, it seemed, because of the tactics of Mordor. Mordor able to just keep them busy in so many different places, able to get in amongst his skirmishers and prevent him from doing a lot of damage to his more elite units, which he was then able to move in without any fear of retaliation from the Sylvan Elves. But great game to everybody involved. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you coming up next. There's going to be, I believe it's going to be Lorien, so I hope you guys enjoy it. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye!